Okay, so this lesson is called Angles and Parallel Lines. Think back to yesterday's lesson where we had lines being cut by a transversal. They form special pairs of angles. Okay? Now, if the two lines are parallel that are being cut by a transversal, then the following 5 things are going to be true. Okay? But this is only true if the two lines being cut are parallel. Okay? The corresponding angles are going to be congruent. That means they have the same angle measure. The alternate interior angles are going to be congruent. The alternate exterior angles are going to be congruent. The same side interior angles, these are not going to be congruent, but they're going to be supplementary. That means they add up to equal 180 degrees, remember? And that's easy to remember because same side, SS, supplementary, SSS. And the same thing is true for same side exterior angles. They are supplementary as well, so SSS. Easy to remember. Okay? Example 1, given the measure of angle 3 equals 133 degrees, find all the other numbered angles. So just so I write my answers the right way, I'm going to do that ahead of time. I'm going to say measure of angle 1 equals measure of angle 2 equals, we already know the measure of angle 3, so measure of angle 4 equals, and so on. Just so we're in the habit of writing stuff the right way. Also, these symbols mean that the two lines are parallel. You see those, that has one of those symbols on it, that has one of those symbols on it. That means that they are parallel. Okay? If this had 2 of those, if there were 2 of those on this line and 2 of those on that line, then that means they're parallel also. If there are 3 of these on this line and 3 of these on this line, then it means they're parallel, and so on. Okay? Well, let's go ahead and let's answer the question. Okay? So we're going to be using the 5 things above. Okay? So angle 3 and angle 5, look at those. Those are alternate interior angles, and they are congruent. So angle 5 is also 133. Look at angle 3 and angle 7. Those are corresponding angles, and corresponding angles are congruent. Angle 5 is a corresponding angle with angle 1, so that's also 133. Look at angle 3 and angle 8. What kind of angles are those? Those are same side interior angles, also called consecutive interior angles. Now those are supplementary, so they add to 180. So that means that angle 8 has to be 47 degrees. You can do the same thing with 5 and 2 if you want. Or you can say that 2 and 8 are alternate interior. So angle 2 should be 47. 2 corresponds with 6, so angle 6 is 47. And angle 8 corresponds with 4, so they are congruent, and they're both 47. So let me run through all 8 of these in order. Angle 1 was 133. Angle 2 was 47. Angle 3 was 133. Oops, I did that wrong, didn't I? We already have angle 3. Oh boy, rookie mistake. That should be 47. Angle 5 is 133. Angle 6 is 47. Angle 7 is 133. And angle 8 is 47. Let's just double check that. 1 is 133, 247, good. We already have angle 3, that's why I skipped over it. It was given in the directions. Okay. Angle 4 was 47, angle 5, 133, 6 is 47, 7, 133, and 8 was 47. Okay. Moving on, we have one theorem at the bottom of this page. It says, in a plane, if a line is perpendicular to one of two parallel lines, then it is perpendicular to the other. So for example, we have two parallel lines, M and N, as noted by these symbols. They are parallel. If you know that L is perpendicular to M, then it means that L has to be perpendicular to N also. Okay? That's what that theorem is saying. Okay? No further comments on that. Example 2. If the measure of angle 1 equals 3x plus 40, and the measure of angle 2 equals 2 times y minus 10, and the measure of angle 3 equals 2x plus 70, find x and y. So let's first look at angle 1 and angle 2, and let's ignore this part over here. You'll see that angle 1 and angle 2 are alternate exterior angles. So back on the first page, we learned that those are congruent. So these two angles, angle 1 and angle 2, are congruent. I'm just going to label them with one arc on each. Now let's ignore this. If you look at angle 1 and angle 3, those are corresponding angles. And you learned on the first page that corresponding angles are congruent. So 1 and 3 are congruent. So in fact, angle 1, angle 2, and angle 3, they all have one arc, so they are all congruent. So now we have to solve for x and y. Now, a lot of people will be tempted to say 3x plus 40 equals 2 times y minus 10. And even though that's true, you don't want to do that because you can't solve for both x and y with only one equation. So we have to say 3x plus 40 equals 2x plus 70 and solve that first. Okay? So let's solve this first for x. Subtract 2x on each side. X plus 40 equals 70. X equals 30. Now, let's just see if that actually worked, because these should be the same, okay? If you substitute 30 in for x, 3 times 30 is 90, plus 40 is 130 degrees. Let's substitute 30 in here. 2 times 30 is 60, plus 70 is 130. Okay, good. They both came out the same. That should work. Now, to find y, there's a couple ways you could do it, but you should know that it should equal 130 because all three of them are the same. So I'm just going to say 2 times y minus 10 equals 130 degrees. And I'm going to solve it like that. Okay, that's how I'm going to solve it. That's not the only way to do it, but that's how I'm going to do it. Okay, so there's a couple ways to solve for y. Divide by 2, or you could distribute. But I'm going to divide each side by 2 to get y minus 10 equals 65. Then add 10 to each side, and you get y equals 75. Okay. Example 3, find the values of A, B, and C, and D below. So this might be confusing, but this might help people if you were to draw an arrow there, and an arrow there, and an arrow there, and then extend these transversals to help you see better. So it matches like the diagrams on the first page. This is all fine. I'm not breaking any rules here. I can do this. Let's start by finding A. Okay, so look at A in this angle. What kinds of angles are these? These are alternate interior angles, so they are congruent. So A equals 57. Now notice how I'm going to write that. Since A is in the inside, and it's a variable, I can just say A equals 57 and write it like that. On to B. Look at B in 64. These are also alternate interior angles, so they are congruent. So B equals 64. Now let's do C. C and 64, these are same side interior angles. Same side interior angles, so they are supplementary, so they add up to equal 180. So C plus 64 equals 180. Solve that for C, and you get C equals 116. Now there's a few ways to solve for D, okay? The first thing that came to mind for me is that these three angles down here, they form a straight angle, so they should add up to equal 180, right? All three of them. So I'm going to say 57 plus D plus 64 equals 180. Okay? These three added together equal 180. Or, if you want to think back to stuff we haven't done yet in this class, this is a triangle right here, and all the angles in the triangle should add to equal 180. But anyway, combined like terms, 57 plus 64 is 121. So D plus 121 equals 180, which means D equals 59. Okay, last page. Solve for X. Now, first think back to the first page, and you want to see what kinds of angles do you have. So these are alternate exterior angles. So I'm going to say alternate exterior angles are congruent. You don't have to write that. I'm just writing that down so you see what I'm doing. But they're congruent, so I'm going to set them equal because their measures are equal. 9x minus 3 equals 7x plus 11, and solve that. So subtract 7x on each side. 2x minus 3 equals 11. Add 3 to each side. 2x equals 14. X equals 7. And let's just check our answer over because the two angles should be congruent. 7 times x, 7 times 7 is 49, plus 11 equals 60 degrees. Okay, so that's 60. Let's check the other one. 9 times x, 9 times 7 is 63, minus 3 equals 60 degrees. So they're both the same, so that's good. I got it right. I know I got it right because I checked. Example 5 is tricky. These are same side interior angles. So same side interior angles are supplementary. You don't have to write that. I'm just writing that down so you see what I'm doing. Same side interior angles are supplementary. That means they add up to equal 180. So 11x plus 8 plus 117 has to equal 180. The mistake people make for these problems is they will set them equal to each other. They'll say 11x plus 8 equals 117. That is not true. Okay? So combine like terms, 11x plus 125 equals 180. Subtract 125, 11x equals 55, and then divide by 11 and you get x equals 5. And let's check our answer and see if it works. If you substitute 5 in for x, 11 times x, 11 times 5 is 55, plus 8 is 63. And just do a check and see if these add up to equal 180, and they do. So I know I got it right. And that is the conclusion of that lesson, angles and parallel lines. But you have to make sure that you definitely remember these 5 things.